Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to East Bay Insiders TV. I'm Steve Tavares. At the onset of the pandemic in March 2020, Alameda County followed many cities in passing an eviction moratorium. Unlike most places, Alameda County kept its moratorium intact for 3 years. The eviction moratorium is now the subject of 2 lawsuits that could potentially cost the county hundreds of millions of dollars. And with me today to break it down is a man of many hats, the invisible hand, as I call him. He is part of the recalls in Alameda County, and also he's part of the East Bay Rental Housing Association. And welcome, Chris Moore.
Thanks for inviting me here today, Steve.
I should also
Good to be on.
Should also say former supervisorial candidate in 2024. That's how some people first got to know you.
That's right. That was a fun little ride. Actually, it was good. Got me to know everybody in town and
That's true. That's true.
A lot of politicians as well.
Well, welcome, Chris. And so let me start out with tenant groups say that the eviction moratorium was needed to keep renters from being evicted during the pandemic, right? And I think most would agree at the onset. What was the landlord's argument specifically against the length of the moratorium, which was a little bit more than 3 years?
Yeah. So I think I do have to give a little bit of background there. First off, tenant groups don't provide housing to the community. They don't understand how to provide housing to the community. Housing providers do. And we obviously have many of those in the community. And I think the eviction moratorium, while we would all agree, I would say every housing provider in the community agreed there needed to be some type of assistance program. And the thing is, we're not in the business to evict people. It makes zero business sense. We're in the business to provide housing to the tenants and our renters, and then work with them when they do have challenges with providing rent. The problem with the eviction moratorium is, yes, it went on for 3 years. And the main issue was under the policy, the state, the county, the city, Oakland, Berkeley, and others came out and said, hey, don't pay your rent. We got you. We're going to cover you. We got you. Don't pay your rent. And they said, no matter, hey, if you earn $500,000 a year and you haven't been impacted by COVID, don't pay your rent. Don't pay your rent. And so then what happened was we got you part, they didn't show up, particularly in Oakland. They only paid out rent if they paid back the rent that was due up to 30% AMI. So that is about, if you earn $36,000 or less, you got your rent and your debt paid off. If you earn more than that, now you socked up all this debt. And so it went on for 3 years, 2 years, or a year and a half more than any other city across the country, but what they did was they socked a lot of renters in the community with debt, and now they are sort of stuck, right? And many also got in that they may have gone out and purchased new car loans because they had all this extra cash, and they found themselves in a position to not being able to pay rent. And so what it really did to the community, it not only hurt renters and hurt many that did have some ability to pay, but it also bankrupted the true affordable housing providers in the community. And that is largely in East Oakland. Many of those are members in the association I'm in. So it's elderly Black women, elderly immigrants that saved to provide affordable housing in the community. And they've been bankrupted and taken those houses off the market. So yes, it went too long. It would have been fine if the counties implemented this and the city implemented this and said, yes, and we're going to back you up. Here are funds to back it up and support this what they felt was important to the community. So that's kind of the issue out there. It was kind of
how long. Yeah. Like you would mostly agree that the eviction moratorium was needed at least at the beginning, right?
I think a policy in the beginning that said, like I said before, the majority of housing providers out there would not have evicted their tenants. They work with them, they understand there's issues. And plus, nobody wanted housing at the time. You could evict somebody, but nobody was going to come back and rent. There was just nobody looking for housing.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna push people out on the street. It made no sense. And I think in the beginning, the counties and cities and politicians didn't really see that. And even we didn't see it. We didn't know what was going to happen. But within about 2 months, you're like, okay, nobody's looking for housing. People that were impacted, we're not going to push them out on the street. Certain people, certain housing providers may, small number, but they could have implemented a program rather than just telling everybody, stop paying rent. Hey, we got you, stop paying rent. They could have said, here are some funds available to help those that truly are in need in the community. And that would have been a better policy. A little bit of hindsight there, of course, but that was pretty obvious after 1 year of into COVID.
Do you have does the people in the rental housing associations, all in these groups, is there a number, like an estimate that you think that landlords are due from the eviction moratorium?
I see lots of people in the county and the city going, testing the waters, hey, let me double check that. I actually did a calculation. So I worked on that with, as part of the board of EBRA. I did it a couple years ago, and some people out in it together as well. I believe, and we believe it's somewhere between, for all of Alameda County, somewhere between 500 to 750 million, right? Just so happens it's equal to about the Measure W funds that are sitting there right now, but that's likely what it is. Again, they gave this for, they put up billboards. Don't pay your rent, right? I mean, you get enough people to see billboards up there, they're not going to pay their rent. And then they, of course, didn't back it up with providing the funds. So I think it's in that range. For Oakland is probably 200 million of that, something like that. That would be a rough guess, but that's probably where it's at.
So last week, and I think a couple weeks prior to that, Alameda County Supervisor David Howard, he was kind of mentioning, he brought up these lawsuits, and they got an update from County Council, and he kind of suggested maybe if he thinks the counties has some legal jeopardy here. That's kind of what he said. He mentioned that maybe Measure W, which is the homeless housing funds that people were fighting with, like for the last 3-4 months, maybe that could be it. Is that possible? How do you think if this turns out against the county and Oakland, like how they gonna pay this? And granted, it's not a slight. Whatever's due to somebody is due to somebody.
Yeah. So here's what I think is going to happen right now. So there are 2 lawsuits, and they're by various two different organizations. I can tell you, I'm not part of those lawsuits. EBRA is actually not part of those lawsuits. East Bay Rental Housing Association, we are not. But we do think they're appropriate, and so the lawsuits are still at the district court level. A final decision hasn't been made, but kind of the judge, Beeler, I think her name is, she has indicated it's at the federal level that she's going to put it in favor of the city and the county. So what you see is going to happen here is it's going to go to the appellate. This is ultimately going to go up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And that is where that's going to be decided, because either side is going to appeal no matter who wins, and they're going to take it all the way up, and maybe the Supreme Court will view it. That's going to these things take like 3 years. So they're just kind of finishing up the district court level. It's going to be another year, likely. That's my guess, that it goes to the appellate court, and then another year after that to see if the Supreme Court takes it. So it's going to be about 2 to 3 years out, I would guess. And as to Measure W, I mean, come on, counties and cities like to spend, I almost say squander money as quickly as possible. So that's in the pot right now. That money's gonna, you watched the Measure W hearings. I participated. I spoke at one, and you had everybody across the county saying that they needed that money, and there's not enough to go around, even though it's 800 million right now and 1.8 billion total. So I don't think there's going to be a lot left 3 years down the road. I think it's going to be, called for, or people are going to, ask for it. But not all of it will be spent, because about 170 million comes in a year, and that will go through 28, 29, 30. So there might be some money there, but I think I do believe the county and the city will lose this lawsuit, and they are either going to have to settle, or they're going to have to pony up cash, rightfully, right? They bankrupted local housing providers and took housing off the street. They in that process, because they were, you might have been renting out your bedroom, and you lost your house in the process, or you rented out your single family home, and you lost your house in the process. So rightfully what they should have done in the beginning is said, hey, we don't want you to, anybody to be out. We don't want people to lose their housing. Here's a fund that we will help those most in need, and those who maybe lost their job, or those who, became sick or had to care for their family. And the county and city should have funded that, rather than putting it on the backs of the people that provide housing to the community.
Yeah, and real quick, since we have you, and you are the recall man. You are the Recall Incorporated.
It's one of my talents.
Yeah, and you're 2 for 2, and
Successful.
Nobody goes 1 for 1, and you were 2 for 2. There could be a recall in San Leandro. It's a fluid thing, and frankly, I don't know who. There could be one, or another, or both, or three. Yeah. Who knows right this time? But just generally, in that city, like, how much could that cost if somebody were trying to recall?
Yeah.
Does it cost more if it's more than one person, right? It would be.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, and I will say, I got a couple calls about this, so I looked into it. Not saying that I support it or anything like that, but so here's what it'll cost. So in that city, they have it's based on the number of registered voters. San Leandro has roughly 52,000 registered voters. So since it's actually over 50,000 registered voters, they have to get about 15%, or about 8,000 votes per. 8,000 signatures per recallee to get it on the ballot, and that'll cost them, if they have to hire signature gatherers, and they likely will. That's even though we collected 100,000, even 9,000, that's a lot in 90 days. So that'll cost between 150 and 170 per recall, right? And then you'll spend another, if they market right and they get out there right, they'll spend another 40K. Probably they could do 2 with 40 or 50K, and just doing the recall. So you're talking 350, something like that for if they did 2. They're talking about 200 if they did 1. But it's a chunk of money, and that's why most of them are not successful, right? Because it's hard. It's very difficult to raise money. It's very difficult because most elections, people contribute to candidates big dollars because they'd like to have a seat at the table down the road, right? When you recall somebody, that person's not going to be in office, right? So it's hard to raise money for those campaigns, and you got to have a good grassroots effort along with it. And that's what we had, and that's how we were successful working with of course it was a big group. It wasn't only me. We had a number of people, but I was proud and happy to help lead that and be successful.
And you also need a very compelling, terrible story to tell, and time will tell if that exists there. But thank you, Chris Moore.
All right.
Moore, the most powerful. Does somebody? My script says, I think it's been tinkered with. Chris Moore, the most powerful man in Alameda County. I don't know, man. Must have been AI. I must have Jack GPT that.
I certainly didn't write that, but I'll agree with it for you.
Good. Thank you, Chris. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
All right.
And
Thank you. Good
everybody
luck.
else, everybody else, oh, don't forget, subscribe to East Bay Insiders newsletter, and you got podcasts and you got TV here, and you go to eastbayinsiders.substack.com.
I'm a subscriber.
Yes, you're a top referrer too.